Welcome to another episode of Foot by the Foot. Today we have former pro and teammate of mine, Pete Pearson. Pete played for South Georgia Tormenta, Oakland, Greenville, had a stint in Germany, also played for the St. Lucia national team, and now is the technical director at Own Touch Central in Richmond, Virginia. So welcome to the show, Pete.
I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure to be with you again. It's been a long time, but definitely look forward to the conversation.
It's been a while, man. We had some good times in Oakland.
Yes, especially,
Weird times with COVID, but
I was
good
going to say,
times.
yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah, man. Talk about your career. I mean, you're a six. You're on the shorter end. You're 5'7", but you imposed your physical presence. You were able to cover ground. You broke duel. You broke up play. You won your duels. But you know, how were you able to fit into the pro game? You know, not someone that was on the stat sheet all the time, but you did a lot of the dirty work. But
Yeah.
how were you able to like fit yourself into all these different places that you played at?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. A lot of people don't know, and probably you don't even know, my guy, is that I was a forward going into college at the University of Virginia. So Gatorade Player of the Year as a forward, and you come in, so you think you're going to play that position. And they easily said, hey, I think we're going to switch you to a six. And think that, of course, I looked at them crazy. But then they said they think that could be the best fit for me to be able to move myself forward in the career of playing pro. So when I heard that, of course, it was a no-brainer, and I just try to figure it out. Of course, I'm a footballer, but at the same time, in the college game, as you know, it takes time to kind of learn that. Definitely with how we played at the time, which was a lot of defending. And as a forward, most forwards don't like defending. So figured that out kind of quick. And of course, transferring to VCU, another Virginia school, it just worked out in my favor that time that I took at UVA for 3 years to really learn that role. It played in my favor when I transferred, and it just the pieces fit around me to allow me to be able to be like the best ball winner that I could be. So I felt like that was a strength that a lot of coaches told me that I would be able to bring to a team. So as that opportunity came about, after 2018 and going into Tormenta and all the other places, I just made sure I honed in on like me being the best in that role. As a soccer player, you already know that everybody's on the field and they have their role and they do the best that they can in that specific role. And for me, that was being the best ball winner. Air duels, even though I might be 5'7", I had a lot of bounce. So I just made sure I did my part in those for me to show the coaches that I had something to offer. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember training with you. I would hate like if I held onto the ball for like one extra second, you're like I wouldn't even know where you'd come from, but then you'd throw like I mean, you are a strong human and your center of gravity is pretty low. And dude, if you would like hip check me, damn, that was not enjoyable. But like it forced me to play quick because you're everywhere. You never knew where you'd be, but like you'd somehow end up and you were a guy that would win the duel. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, knowing your role. And I'm sure your role was different everywhere you went, but when we played in Oakland together, you'd win the ball and you'd try and play forward. If not, just retain possession. And that's what you need as a player.
Most definitely. It was also nice playing with you because I knew you were we're not too far off age wise, you're a little bit older, but looked up to you and of course other guys that we had on the team that I was still in the beginning stages of figuring out the pro game. So like, yeah, I probably passed the ball backwards too much, but as a six, sometimes you do that to lead to something else. So like you and other guys gave me confidence to really try to go and look forward. But I guess that also plays a part with you having a strong team around you to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
value that a lot, especially in Oakland.
It's interesting you say the confidence part because I always like tell the young players that I coach, you make a mistake passing, which is fine, but what's the best way to get that confidence back up is, complete the easy pass. Can you make the next pass? Can you make the next pass? And then you could try and thread something, and you kind of can keep doing that throughout the game. Obviously, you're going to have good days and bad days, but
It's a part of it.
how,
It's a part of
yeah, I mean, and we'll get to the, the mental health side of things, but what was that change like going from a UVA, obviously powerhouse, to VCU, which is also powerhouse, but I would say more of a mid-major powerhouse.
it. Yeah, man, it was challenging. Wouldn't change it for the world, but definitely being a Virginia kid. If you're one of the top out of Virginia, you always tend to go to University of Virginia or Virginia Tech. And for me, UVA was always a dream school at the age of like 12. Had that opportunity and took advantage of it. But at the same time, as you know, the college game is a business at the end of the day, even more now, which I don't know if I think I'm thankful right now to not be in it because there's a lot of athletes that I talk to that are going through it and it's a lot of stress. Just there's a lot of layers to it, you know. So honestly, with UVA being my first school and of course winning a national championship my freshman year, trust me, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, you can't beat that." But you know, at the end of the day, I knew I had a goal that I wanted to try to get to the next level. And if you're not playing in college, it's very hard for you to do so. Even though I stayed there for 3 years and really tried to prove to them that I was capable and you know, deserving of it, which in my mind, yeah, I probably still think that. But there's a lot of things that play a part in it, you know, how you fit into the system, to the players they bring, to seniors, juniors, with you being a freshman or sophomore. So there's just a lot of layers that a lot of athletes don't understand that, you know, I went through. And it's also just about timing of everything, you know. So for me, you know, I did my part of really trying to show that. And honestly, it built me into the person that I am today that you know. And transferring, trust me, it was a very emotional time because that was a dream school. I mean, I wanted to get that degree from there and all the things, but I knew I had a bigger goal that I wanted for myself. And transferring was the one. And VCU, like you said, is a mid-major school, but they are always in the fight, in the hunt. And that coach gave me that ability to be myself, reinvent myself to the player, the person that I wanted to be, especially going through the trials that I went through at UVA with not playing to helping teammates going through tough times that put a lot of stress on me for me to not perform at my best. You know, I tend to care too much to where it affects me in my life. But that's, you know, I wouldn't change that for the world. But things worked itself out in the transferring world at that time, which is a lot different now.
Yeah, man, the transfer portal is insane. I mean, I did the same thing as you. I did 3 years at Dayton and then transferred to
Yeah.
Creighton. It was like you're trying to call all your contacts, trying to figure out where to go, and I mean, luckily for you, you had, you were in Virginia, you won Gatorade Player of the Year, so it's easier to, like, kinda navigate, but I was like I was just like another player coming out of col or
Yeah.
out of high school, and to transfer was a whole different situation, and, yeah, it was difficult. I
It's
mean,
very difficult, man.
for sure. It's fun you say the transfer portal is insane.
Man, you got kids transferring 3 times now. I'm like, whoa, wait,
Yeah.
what? What's going on? Why?
Yeah, we definitely didn't have that.
Nah, this is one. You hope that it worked out very well. And
Yeah, and just
it
and just
did.
kinda coming back to what you were saying, with the hierarchy within the college teams, place like UVA is always bringing the national team players and, they kinda want that new shiny object and, if you're not in form, like, they're gonna just push those guys up, so, I'm glad it all worked out. Sometimes you have to, like, get knocked down to get back up, so,
That's part of the game, man. It's
yeah.
part of the game.
So obviously, I met you when we were playing in Oakland, and it was a really unique situation because we showed up. We played what 2 games? Maybe no, we played a game, and then
Again, that's
yeah,
a
and
game.
then COVID hit, and it was really interesting because we didn't really know what was going to happen next, and I kind
Never.
of wanted to like have your take on obviously season ended and we made the jump to USL. And I mean, I struggle with the fact that, I was on the older end and finding a team at that point was difficult. And, the lower league clubs, they didn't have the money to spend on players. So, navigating the waters of, what's next was this big challenge. And I kind of wanted to like hear your take on, season ended and, we obviously all got released, but how were you able to, push through and find, you ended up at Greenville after that. But what
Yeah,
was that whole process like for you and, staying mentally engaged and focused and motivated to continue playing?
yeah. So funny, after Oakland Roots, I actually went to NCFC and then Greenville after, but it was very difficult to the fact that my first pro year, you know, college kids are not used to the, pro game. It's a 9, 10 month season, your body. To be honest, I was learning it with y'all. Just I didn't play because I had an injury, so I didn't play as much in Tormenta just because of that injury. First year in USL League One, a lot of things weren't figured out just yet. So definitely had its moments. So me going to Open Roots was, uncharted waters. I didn't know what to expect. It was Anissa, all that. But I knew Open Roots had a lot of money. I knew they had some players such as yourself, Nana, as well as many others, Matt Fondy, and we can go down the list. But COVID happening, honestly, like I thought I would not have a team after open routes just because like you're supposed to play what 20 something,
Yeah,
maybe 30 games,
yeah.
close to that, and we only played I think like 12 or like 9, whatever it was.
Well, we played, like, what do we play, 6 and or was it 7 in,
My
like, 9 days in the
It
bubble
was
tournament in Detroit?
unbelievable. Oh my gosh! Like, and I haven't done that in a long time since like youth days. To
Talk about putting your body through the ringer on that one.
the ringer, man. We were all going through it, but that was so funny. You're right, thinking about Detroit. But like that many games, especially with me, I would say having my first actual pro year was hard because you want games. You want opportunities to show yourself. You want, not just that many games. You want at least over 15 to show consistency, which is hard, especially during COVID when there's a pandemic and nobody knows. Honestly, they're dealing with family issues, which I was dealing with at the time, but it made it work. And luckily, we had a very good group. Yes, we didn't win the finals, but like we had a very good group and we gelled well. We networked very well together and honestly played very well together, I thought. And fortunate with some injuries in the end. But after that, man, it was devastating because I thought, okay, I'm 23, kind of the beginning, 22, 23. COVID happened. All right, shoot, they're going USL. Do I feel like I have an opportunity to make it? I have no clue because of COVID, having that, just over our head and just the uncertainty, which the game is a lot of uncertainty when you move on after the season. And, just I wasn't out there enough yet. So luckily, me being able to do my due diligence and playing in college and going to summer teams and playing for a lot of different summer teams allowed me to be able to have my name out there. And that connection ended up helping, honestly, after open roots. And of course, those 10 games we did very well. So I think that pushed it a little bit more. But yeah, man, it was hard. It took until the very last couple of weeks before the season started or preseason started for 2021.
Did you go into preseason with North Carolina, or did
No,
you did
they
you
yeah, they signed right out, just right out the gate, which I was very thankful because, of course, if I had to go during preseason, I'm taking it, I'm running with it. But you already know it's very difficult because they're going to probably pull in a number of players to look at, and such. So coming in there signed right away was a blessing. And, it was a very good situation just because NCFC's been around for some time, before either the Railhawks and, they revamped things and, it was their first season jumping into USL League One. And, me being one of the older players, which felt weird. I still had some old heads on that team, but at that time, they had a lot of academy kids as well, 18 to 19 years old and maybe a couple of years younger. So different leading in that way, but a great just overall club and situation to be in. Didn't win much because of how young we were and just the maturity level, but definitely learned a lot about myself and how I could lead a team like that. So difficult again during COVID, but networking and me being able to put myself out there during the summer seasons in college allowed me to be able to have that opportunity. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you've gotten to play for all kinds of clubs, right? All different tiers, and let's be honest, there's a lot of struggle in the lower leagues in the US, and
100%.
you're seeing it change. It's getting better, but you're still seeing teams fold. And one of the teams that you played for, Tormenta, folded. But what have you noticed stood out between the teams that did it right and the teams that didn't do it right? What has been like the little detail that you picked up on from like the clubs that have done well?
Yeah. I think it goes with, of course, like having a good supporting cast on the back end. You got your presidents, your general managers, whatever you want to call them, everywhere is different. Them, of course, putting themselves in a financial situation where they can take care of the players. At the end of the day, the players are the ones that are playing and competing from the fans. And, some did it very well with taking care of the players, whether it's medically, whether it's, of course, financially, housing and those things. But some didn't do very well with that. And you can tell. And it took a hit, whether it was guys not giving their all because they knew they weren't being taken care of well. And then you have in a situation where everything's set and feels professional to where you feel like you can wake up every day, not worry about trying to do another job or whatever the case may be. And you can actually perform and focus on taking care of your body. So for me, it was just the little things when it comes to that, just making sure the players felt valued and seen and supported, which to be honest, that's all we want. Yes, we care about the money at the end of the day because money,
You gotta eat, no?
you gotta
You gotta
eat.
eat.
So honestly, that's what it came to. If we're not
Yeah.
eating, then you're not gonna have a good situation, which, with some clubs there it was like that. And then some, such as NCFC and Greenville, Oakland Roots, to be honest, I felt like if that was a full season, we would have been taken care of very well. I
I
think
mean, even
but
like
we
with it
were
not
still
being
taken
a
care
full
of.
season, yeah, we were taken
Yeah,
care of. I mean, the beauty of it was we were still getting paid through COVID, and I know a lot of teams kind of went on hiatus. They were paying like a fraction of the salary, but they took care of us. We had the living situation. We ended up getting even better places to live
that's very true.
after the fact. So no, I agree with you. The one though, I remember when I was playing in Israel. They stopped paying us at a certain point. That was kind of crazy. I'd never experienced anything like that. Because in the U.S., like if they stop paying you, the team just folds.
Yeah,
But there was like, you know,
can
and in
imagine.
Europe, yeah, in Europe they do it differently. They don't do biweekly pay, they do monthly pay. So it's like
Got ready
pay
for it.
didn't come and I was like, "What the heck? Like, are we getting paid? Like, is this
Yeah.
normal?" And guys are like, "It's fine, it's coming, gonna come on the back end."
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
ended up
yeah,
getting paid, but yeah, it was insane. It was
yeah.
insane.
I heard some stories about Israel from you and Jake and
Yeah,
many
Jake
others.
yeah, Jake knows too. Jake knows, what the
That was
pay
about
looks
it.
like over there as well. I remember, yeah, he was like, "What the heck? Where's the pay? Like, is it coming?" Yeah, he played for a club that was, like, going through a lot of change, so
But I bet a great experience
yeah,
besides
I
that.
mean, for
Uh,
sure, for
so
sure. No, without a doubt, and talking about experiences, you got to play all over the place, and then, we're rewarded being able to play for St. Lucia, so, I'm just curious, how did that all come to be, and, what's the background to ending up in camp there?
yeah, so I guess it really started in 2022 when I was at Greenville. Individually, I had a very good year with NCFC, but as a whole, was not good. So just kind of like took that and had the opportunity to sign for Greenville, which was the top team in our league at that time, who won a U1 title. So felt very honored to be able to go there and play for John Harkes. And everybody I would hope knows John Harkes. He's pretty much the Captain America before Christian Pulisic. So he was the guy, the first. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but was the first to play in the EPL or Premier League with Sheffield Wednesday, and he was a great mentor in that time for me, just to trying to be the best midfielder that I can be. He was a top midfielder in the world, captain US. So just trying to learn from him and having the opportunity that came, in the middle of the season for me to be able to get called up to St. Lucia. And it just happened so that we were in Richmond, about to play Richmond. And, Stern John, my national team coach, we were talking back and forth through WhatsApp. And, I told him who my coach was, and he was like, "Oh, like John Harkes? Oh, yeah. I think I owe him some money or some stuff like that." And, he played in the MLS at the same time as, John. I think he played for DC United, and Stern John, my national team coach, played for Columbus Crew at the time against each other. And he was Trinidadian's top goal scorer. So it was a big deal to have that like connection to where like I felt comfortable and confident that, wow, they know each other. So I think both of them know what's best for me in this situation for me to, I guess, prolong my career, set myself up for later down the line. And yeah, he did say, "Hey, we got Nations League coming up. It's my first time seeing you." And honestly, a lot of the guys coming from overseas and said, "I would like, to have you for a month," which is a month in the middle of the USL League One season, middle of the summer. That's a very big portion. And, I felt weird because I was playing at Greenville, starting or getting some time to where like, okay, I'm in a good situation where I just keep performing, keep building, we're doing well. Like I resign or maybe go somewhere better. You never know. So it definitely was in my mind about like, okay, I'm sitting out for a month from the group playing for the national team. And
Was John pretty encouraging about you going?
yes, so we had that conversation in Richmond at breakfast or at lunch or wherever it was. And I told him my worries. I was straight up just because I'm still kind of young, learning, second year fully. And, he says, "Hey, you can't even think like that. Yes, it's big time opportunity, but at the same time, yes, you're going to be missing a large portion of it. But, this is once in a lifetime thing that you have to take." And I get it, as you know. And, so I just kind of took that and kind of just whatever happens, happens. I'm going there to try to make a name for myself and be a part of something that not many people get to be a part of. And If I come back and we're still doing well, great, but I might have missed the opportunity to keep that spot because if we're performing and we're doing well, you don't change anything, you keep it. Not saying that I wanted bad things to happen so I can come back and hop right back in, but that's just the nature of the beast. And I know you know all about that. So took that opportunity, left, did training camp for about a month almost there, and got into Nations League and played, started, and had the opportunity to do pretty well there. And we actually went up to the next group stage with the Nations League, which was with some better heavy hitters than the ones that we had.
Yeah, what's it like playing in the CONCACAF, against other CONCACAF teams? I mean, you
It's
I
different.
follow it. Obviously, we have, what is it, 2 islands, Curacao and Haiti going to the World Cup.
Uh,
What's it like competing against, the Jamaicas, you know, the I don't even
it's
know who else who's like the powerhouse, like the smaller country right now?
the powerhouses is the ones you just said. Curacao, who we played in Gold Cup, and we beat them a couple times in Nations League again. Also, the first prelims for Gold Cup, but ended up losing to them in the time where we had to like try to win to be in Gold Cup like how they are right now. So it's Curacao, you say Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, and more so I would say those are the Caribbean countries. Like those are the heavy hitters in my eyes. I would say Grenada could be up there, you
Yeah.
know, but definitely Curacao was one of the harder teams that we played, as well as Haiti. And we played them in the World Cup qualifiers not too long ago and gave them a game, but they definitely were the better team. We lost 2-1. We were up 1-0. So they just kept knocking on the door and scored two. So it would have been cool to have that opportunity to push us on.
What's the trajectory for these countries now? Because, everyone's getting better. And
Yeah.
the reality of it is everyone's like investing in the infrastructure and the system. But, what are your thoughts on these small islands making a big run at a World Cup? I mean, is this the year that, Curacao or Haiti go far?
Mm.
Or do you think there's still a long ways to go in terms of, because I've heard stories about the professionalism and the travel
Yeah.
and, guys not getting paid. And, that makes it difficult to go and compete. Obviously, you want to compete for your home country, but, that always adds an added caveat to really going to play 100%. But are
Yeah.
they there yet? Or do you think it's still a ways away?
They're still a ways away. In my mind, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of good things happening. And then you got the higher ones like Jamaica, Haiti that can compete, on a consistent basis because they have the infrastructure and all those things. And, it's not like US or many other countries, but like they're at the top of the top. When it comes to Caribbean countries. So, for the younger, not younger, but the smaller islands that definitely don't have that infrastructure and the financial backing, like again, at the very beginning, we talked about like, how do you separate yourself? It's all about you taking care of the players at the end of the day. And then that's where you can reap the benefits if you're doing that. And in that case, there's a lot of growth that needs to be had. And it's hard. You're in a small little country that's far away from a lot of money. You just hope that you got the right enough backing, support, sponsorships, whatever it may be, to be able to see that vision and help grow the country and the sport, which it is happening, especially for St. Lucia. It's slowly, but when you have players that are coming from England playing in the championship or League One, like that ends up helping in a way, just to the fact that you're bringing more eyes and more people to see like, okay, there's growth, there's something that can come out of this if we put the money where it needs to be, to get those type of players. So yeah,
Yeah,
man,
and
this.
you're also seeing these players opt out. I mean, you're an example, right? I mean, you very easily could have played, chosen to stay with the US and not gone with St. Lucia, So you're seeing more of that. And
Very
I
true.
feel like guys are, you could see a generation of guys be like, all right, you know what, let's go. Like I have St. Lucian background and let's just get together and go ball out. And I'm trying to think, there's a country, no, it was Guam. There's like a bunch of Americans that were playing in the USL for a while,
It's
and
very
they
true.
got together and they made some noise. It was what, 2016?
I think I know
Uh,
exactly what you're
so
talking about.
yeah, you never know. Like that could easily happen at some point. But
Yeah.
that's an interesting take.
No, for sure. I mean, competitor. So if you can pull a
Yeah,
band of players that play over there and come together and mix with the locals, it also allows the game to grow if you're bringing those players to the country and allowing the locals that don't have that opportunity for them to be around big players like that get probably thousands of dollars within a week, So like it allows the game to grow in that and allows those kids that are local to like see like, all right, this is what it takes and they need to do more. They need to train harder, all those things. So, but it is tough. So yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, so, I mean, you've transitioned, you're now coaching or not coaching, you're technical director, but at Own Touch Central, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In Richmond, but, what made you pivot to that? And, you know, I know you said you're doing more of, guiding the coaches, but what does Pete Pearson's philosophy look like and what he's looking for these coaches to bring out of players?
Yeah. So for me, before I even went into Don't Touch, there's this other job that I have indoor for athletes, more about the mental health side as being a student athlete, which we already know is very challenging. So for me, growing up, my mom was a teacher. So my whole motto was always like never leave a kid behind. I think, I've always liked being around and helping, the next generation or letting them know that they are seen and valued because, think of it when you were young. Didn't you like having older guys that play the game that you look up to come and hang with you, kick around with you, all those things? Like I truly looked up to that because I grew up in a rough neighborhood where I didn't have much of that. So when it did happen, I valued it. And that made me just think of it in a way as when I get older, I want to be in a situation or a place, space that I can be able to bring that every single day. And me being able to have the opportunity to be at Untouch, which is again a training facility that allows kids from 6 to college to be able to have a space that they can build confidence, on the field. I think, at club practices, not so much MLS, I think you'll have more of a structure that helps grow players better. But in youth, you got 3 practices a week, right? You got games on Saturdays. They're focused on winning. I'm gonna be honest. Like a lot of them are focused on, picking the best squad to trying to help them perform Saturday and try to get a win. The technical side, a lot of people do miss that side of it. And to be honest, like that's what you need more than anything for you to be able to climb the ladder as you get older. Because if not, you're gonna be left by the wayside and you're gonna be like, dang, I wish I'd have did more in the technical aspects to then build the confidence that I need to be able to go out and do the things that coach is telling me to do. Because if I can't pass from point A to point B in a specific way to get there quicker, then how is that even going to operate? Like it's not.
Sure.
So for me, it was just all about being a part of something that allowed me to be able to give that to the kids, because I had a specific coach that trained me on the side that that valued in on those aspect of the game. And not many kids now can do that, so having a place and a facility that allows that, I thought was a no brainer. And it allowed me to work with younger kids because it starts at a very, very young age to be able to hopefully get to where they want to be. And if it is not sports, okay, but at least they're still learning how to be a good teammate and many other factors that come with it to help them outside of their sport. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that that's why, obviously the DMV is one of the hotbeds in the US with talent, but do you think that's the reason why, there's a bit of a struggle to bridge that gap for the professional level? I mean, I think back when I was growing up, the best team in the country was Baltimore Bays,
Yep.
and those guys were built like absolute units. And I think back to we struggled because we just couldn't compete athletically, but then when I look back at it, they didn't really have any guys. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't think anybody from that 92, 93 group went pro. And maybe they did, but like nobody that made like a huge impact. But do you think that that's, the difference where there's a heavy emphasis on the winning and not on the technical development, and they miss out on that because not even just the DMV, but the East Coast, you play against a team from New York, anyway, I mean, just big humans that are gonna win duels, they're gonna fight. It's like embedded in your DNA.
Yeah.
But
That's very
I just
true.
I just wonder if that's, if that culture's been changing a little bit or if it's still the same.
Yeah. As what you just said is very true on to the fact that back in the day, it was all athletic. I think it still is in America. You go to MLS, they look probably, let me not speak for you, Chicago,
Yeah,
but
we
like,
got we we
you
got the we
know,
got the little guys here. We like technical.
yeah. See, so like I respect that. But on the East Coast, for my clubs, Beach FC and such, like a lot of those, they build connections with MLS teams that want to find the most athletic because I feel like they realize like, okay, maybe I can work with them with their feet, but built wise, like it's very hard to come by. strong, powerful, can get up and down, So a lot of them try to find more of that, that fit into the MLS system. But, I think that is an issue, which is why we will take too long or however long to catch up with European teams or just national teams, like for us, it needs to start younger. We need to create spaces for them to be able to be outside playing, pick up all those things that other countries do to where they're on the field so much and technically they're putting themselves through the ringer for them to figure it out. That's just how I feel as I see it now working with kids at a young age. Like there's 10, 11, 12-year olds that can't juggle, which you don't need to be a good juggler to be a pro or all that. But like it shows you like, wow, you don't even care about that. They get there, they want to straight shoot. Trust me, you're a kid, you want to enjoy it, you want to just shoot, you want to score. But in reality, scoring is very hard. So how about you do the little things first that builds you up to get to that stage of being able to score, So you got to get to point A to point B to then hopefully get to the goal. Like it doesn't just work like that. So I feel like the aspects, like technical side of it, you need to help build that type of player, the confidence, the charisma, all of that for them to be able to do the things again that they want to do in their mind. So if you're not doing that, then it's going to be very hard. And I feel like we do have a problem with that and we don't focus on it enough. And, some people are figuring it out. Some clubs are figuring it out. But that's why I don't really want to be a part of a club because I feel like I can reach more rather than having a team of maybe 15. I don't know how many you have on your team, but me being able to have about 200 kids, I know it's a lot, but like I see them every day for like 3 hours. And, the more they come, the more they feel confident, the more that you can kind of reiterate and talk to them about how you can do this better and such. And it's literally just reinforcing it every single day, which a lot of them don't have because time is, you don't have much time. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you,
clubs, they don't have that much time with
do you
them.
feel like the World Cup, I know you guys aren't hosting a game in Virginia, but is that adding some fuel to the fire in the DMV and, you know, more pickup, more like unorganized pickup?
Yeah,
'Cause
it is
I feel like that's where all the good stuff comes out, there's
very
no
true.
pressure. You're just competing against, the next guy, and you have all different shapes and sizes playing, and I feel like that's where you can, like, really I mean, I didn't really have anything like that growing up. I had a couple kids that lived in my backyard, and we'd play soccer, we'd play street hockey, but,
Mm.
that's where I got passion for playing. But are there opportunities like that with you guys in the DMV and, in your program?
There's okay, first you said World Cup. Yes, the World Cup's adding a lot of like buzz and kids get to hopefully experience this in our country, which is amazing, which then, brings the level of excitement, competitiveness, drive to be out on the field a lot more. So yes, amazing. But do we have enough spaces for that? That is creating what you said, free pickup, just going out and playing, like you said, all shapes and sizes. Don't let the shapes and sizes fool you because you just never know. There's some people
Hey,
that
look,
got
me
a lot
too,
of
man.
stuff.
I'm skinny, but I go on a tackle
You got
with
a good bag.
madmen, you know? Yeah,
You got a good bag.
don't let the outside really fool you, you know? Anything could happen. Same with you, man.
Yeah. Hey, he was a very good player. But we need it. I think it is happening, and I see organizations creating, more courts in underprivileged neighborhoods, like, street courts, which is amazing. I wish I had that. I grew up in a neighborhood that was mainly basketball and football. And I was the one, the black kid that had the soccer ball with all the other ones that had football and basketballs. And they look at me kind of crazy. But then me introducing the game and them not being able to take the ball away from me, it was like street, like, so more of that is definitely happening and being created. And that's something that is the reason why I like Untouched, just the fact that it's a small environment that allows a lot of like pickup opportunities, not pickup. We sell technical, but at the same time, at the end, I want them to go 1-on-1, 2v2, 3v3, because what you just learned, we want you to implement it and let your mind be free and figure out how can you get across and beat this person that's across from you. Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. So it's
That's it.
slowly growing.
That's also, I mean, that got me thinking about what you just said. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with CJ Brown, but he coached me at House. I work with him now at the Fire, but
Yeah, dude.
he's,
Yeah.
yeah, he's a Fire legend. He's all-time leader in appearances, and, that's kind of been his MO after he left the Fire staff coaching with the first team. But, if we can look, the opportunities to play professional soccer are greater than there are to play in the NFL and the NBA. And, again, you could play becoming a pro doesn't mean you play at the highest level, but,
Yeah.
and if we could start to, like, create that culture of, you know, let's love soccer, it's a great sport and you can convert these football players, these basketball players into
Yeah.
soccer I mean, the reality is they're athletes, and if you can build those basic skills, man, I just think about like the fire in, 10, 20 years, if we can build that culture here, you're going to see more guys come out and from those areas that really had that soccer culture, and it's same with what you're saying where you grew up, where it's nobody was really playing at the time, and now you're starting to see that, and I think I'm not like too pro for these guys, but like I Show Speed's like a good example. He's catered towards kids that it's primarily the African American kids that didn't really know much about soccer, and he's made soccer cool, and
Yes.
it's
Very
like
true.
created that passion for the game. I don't like the social media side of like the not just 'cause I think that's the area that kids struggle, and they don't watch games anymore. They only watch the little clips. They only see the good things, but you got to see the bad things too.
It's it's funny you say that. So my president for Own Touch, he's Jamaican, played pro for a long time. His son plays now for FC Dallas. His daughter plays for Utah Royals, rookie years, and they're doing very well. He's the pretty much the reason why I wanted to jump into this space at Own Touch because, came from Jamaica where he didn't have much, but it was a lot of pickup. It was a lot of that. And he wanted to create an environment that allowed that, just like your Coach Brown at Chicago. He's the same type of mindset of wanting to be able to put it in neighborhoods and areas that you wouldn't expect it to be able to pull those athletic kids at a young age, 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, to then teaching them about the game technically to where, wow, they're that strong, but yet their feet are solid and they're
Yeah.
understanding the game. And then before you even know it, they're not playing basketball. They're not playing football. You have a 6 foot, strong, powerful, very technical, sound player that can probably play anywhere. And you already know overseas they love that. They like a little size. They like a little,
I mean,
athleticism.
Look at the Premier League. Everyone's I mean,
100%.
look, I know, like, we've in Chicago, like, especially with the Fire, we value, like, technical small players, but the reality is you have to have the complete package, and you can teach technical skill, but that comes at a younger age to build that foundation, but you can't build size, you know? You're gonna be who you're gonna be, and you can only get so tall, you can only get so strong, but you can build on the basics, and
Yeah, very true.
that's the foundation,
Very true.
you know? Uh, and I know you've been a huge, I wanted to really touch base on this because I know it's I mean, now it's more talked about, but unspoken side of the game, the mental health side. And I know you're a big advocate for that, but like, what are some things that you struggled with? And, how were you able to cope with that as a player? And knowing what you know now, what advice can you give to help a player that's struggling in the same areas?
Yeah, the thing that I struggled with most, I guess for me, it was always feeling like I had to do everything by myself. Man, me being a black athlete in America, like I always felt like I had to like figure it all out by myself. Yes, I had two older brothers, but they never did it at this level. And I was pretty much the first one to go to college and get a graduate and all of that. So I just felt like there was a lot of things with me that I kind of kept very internal and try to just feel like I had to figure it all out. Never really asked for help as much. I spoke out a lot, but like, when it came to very dark things that allowed me to, or didn't allow me to be the person or the player that I wanted to be, it held me back. So that was always the hardest thing, especially going into college. You go from being here at the top to then down here, which everybody starts. If you're that one, great, which you do usually have that one kid that comes in and starts right away and it works perfect. Jake was that, he was so tiny, but like he was very technically just smart, knew the game, and it worked out for him in that way very quickly. But for me, maybe it took some time. And I felt like I was fighting myself and just battling and just really trying to like manage it all by myself. When in reality, we live in a very huge world that has so many people for us to not do it all by ourselves. And for me, it's always been big now trying to let young athletes know that when they're in college, transfer portal, NIL, all the stuff that's happening, all the stuff that can happen outside of all of that, please make sure like you're speaking to people, whether it's close friends, teammates, whatever it may be. I think you and I got very close, Nana, Matt Fondi. Like I opened up to y'all about certain things and it allowed me to do very well for the 10, 12 games that we had and feel confident and comfortable rather than COVID happening, staying dark, trying to figure it all out, talking to y'all from here and there, time to time. But like, I think we have teammates for a reason, use each other, lean on each other. That ends up helping you be able to figure yourself out more. And honestly, it allows your teammates to figure you out more in ways that they can help you. So for me, it's always just telling myself as well as younger ones to like just speak up, speak out about what you're going through feeling wise. And to be honest, I think that ends up helping you figure out what you need for yourself, how to cope with things, how to deal with it. And honestly, your teammates might give you some little hidden gems that ends up helping you be able to, move in a better way for yourself, on the field as well as just in life. So that's always been big with me. And that's why I'm in the mental health space as a director for Endure for Athletes and leading the charge with that and finding student athletes that want to be advocates and vocal about using their voice. Because the more stories that are being told, the more experiences, the more that other athletes see that and say, wow, like, oh, they went through the same exact thing. That might have been 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but they understand what I'm feeling. And having that conversation ends up allowing you to be the person you want to be. So
Yeah. I mean, the DMV, I mean, we talked about the DMV and it's like a high achieving area, but there's a lot of pressure for young athletes to get that D1 scholarship, to get that pro contract. But, have you seen that external pressure erode a player's internal love for the game? And now you have this NIL money that gets thrown in. There's a lot of factors, and there's like, everyone wants to be famous on social media. But how are you like helping these kids, stay on the right path and keep their head like on, keep their head straight and moving in the right direction as opposed to taking these, unnecessary turns in
yeah,
pursuit of.
yeah, it's hard, man. It's like I'm still navigating it, but for me, it's just again allowing them to know that they need to first surround themselves with a good community of people that know who they are. So when they're going through trying to make decisions of NIL money or picking a school, you have valuable people that truly know you and can help you make the right decision. And honestly, like you're never gonna make it. Everybody's gonna have decisions, whether it's the right one or a wrong one, it's for you to figure out. But just again, having that support system to help you along that journey ends up being a massive difference. And, for me, I always just tell them that, have a community that you trust because that's what helps you move in the right direction. And at the same time, just always staying true to themselves and being authentic is very key because, we end up sometimes trying to be the person that we're not. And then it leads us to some very dark times. And then you having to try to pull yourself out of that, by yourself. So being confident, authentic in themselves. And I also try my best to try to stop saying confident, like be confident. Like that's a very like what does that even mean? You know what I mean? So that's something that I've learned with a mental performance coach of stop saying be confident. How about you tell them some very actionable things for them to like understand what that means. So try to work on that side of things. And it's a road that will always be hard to figure out, but hopefully surrounding yourself again around the right people to help you through it all.
Yeah, and I mean, it's never a straight road, right? You have
Yeah,
bumps, you have
I
peaks,
thought it
you have
was.
valleys, for sure, and I think something I struggled with, and I'm curious your take on this, but, I felt like I lost a bit of my identity when I stopped playing, and I feel like more players go through that than not, but, how are you helping those players prepare for, like, whether they achieve their dreams as a player or not, but how do you help them and have these open conversation that like, it's okay if you don't get a D1 scholarship. Like, you can go D3 and still get a great education and, have a great life, like, have a great life and be successful. And it's going to be okay. Cause I'm seeing a lot of this right now of players feel like I have to play for Real Madrid and, or Barcelona or whoever it is. And the reality is like the percent chance. I mean, I don't know at the top of my head that the
I know.
chances are you becoming a pro, but they're super small for the amount of people that will be in this world. How are you able to like tell them it's going to be okay?
Yeah, it's funny. Like the percent of kids getting into college is very slim too. Like
Especially
like
now with
out
the
of D1.
especially now with the
Yeah.
foreigners coming here as an
Yeah,
American.
it's like a 5%. We recently did that. I went to a Black Student Athlete Summit in University of Oregon last week, and they were talking about numbers. So they were like, "Oh, y'all are like the 5% that get to college, but then the 1% that make it pro, like it's only 1%, and it's very very slim." So yeah, man, and those are honestly a lot of conversations that I have with athletes is like life after sport or like them feeling like they want this goal, trust me, dream for it,
Yeah.
put on earth to dream. So dream big, but at the same time, you need to also do the things outside of that to prep you for after it. And I think for me, I did well with networking while I was playing to where, to be honest, after stopping playing, trust me, I missed it. It was a heavy hit, but I handled it a lot better than I thought just because of how I moved in college and networked with people outside of the sport world or whatever it may be. So for me, I always tell kids like when you're in it, like I always said, like go live in a dorm with non-athletes, like because at the end of the day, when you're having a tough time at practice, you go back to your dorm with your teammates. You're sitting in a walls just around each other talking about the day that you had that was terrible. And it's just consistently. So like having that opportunity to live with someone else that is outside of that ends up allowing you to get away from the game to then also put yourself in a space that allows you to network in a way that, shoot, that person that is your roommate, it's not an athlete, could probably be a CEO of a company or CFO or whatever. And that's helped me honestly be able to move the way I have in life after sport. And for me, I always try to tell them to do that, whether they understand it in the moment or not. They don't need to, but I feel like if they take that opportunity and it gives them a little more freedom, a little more space to be able to come to their game, their college game or practices a little bit better instead of sitting with all the teammates in a room and having those conversations.
And
Me and
and
you've
some
had them at pro
some
level.
sometimes you don't even wanna talk to them about it because, like, I don't want if I had beef with you in training, I don't wanna have a conversation with you
Yeah,
after,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
not right after, we'll figure it out later, but or, you don't wanna be put in those positions, but,
You
no,
don't.
I think it's
So,
important. I mean, I
yeah.
I don't know, for me, I was trying to do a lot of coaching while I was playing, and I didn't know if I really wanted to go into coaching, like, what my future was, but I think you've done such a good job of transitioning because, like, this has been your calling, you've always enjoyed helping people, and there's different ways to help, right? I mean, I chose the team coaching route, but and obviously you're doing a little more managing the people that are teaching content. But, at the end of the day, we're all here for the same cause and trying to, first of all, create a safe space to play. And, you know, I started playing the game because I knew that this was my way to connect with people.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
being around people, like-minded people. And that's the beauty of the game. You know, if you can find, surround yourself around people like that, you'll grow. And yeah, even now, guys I played with in college. I got a buddy that's like a nurse now. I got
Yeah.
another friend that's working for the Washington Wizards and the Mystics, working on the mental side of the game. So, everyone has their own path and everyone's just trying to help out, but it's a network you build while you play for sure.
100%. So I always say again, when they're playing, find other things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So me and you
Do you guys offer something through the program where like, you have training, but then you'll do,
sit
I
down
don't
session.
know, a painting class or something like to give 'em something a
Oh,
little different?
no, and to be
No.
honest, that is an amazing, like, way of you, like, thinking that. So where future things are happening to where we can have more space to do things. So, to be honest, that's, like, a great idea, but giving them more, and hopefully there'll be time for me, parents want me to sit down with them and their kids and talk about the mental side, but, they're very young, and I'm okay with talking to young kids, but you still gotta be very mindful, figure out the maturity level, and I can simplify things for me to speak to them on like how to handle, I don't know, a mistake in a game, to be able to move on, forward. So there's ways, and I'm hoping as the future, goes, we can build some amazing things and new things, like you just said, to just give them something different, which I think is very, very crucial for them at a young age as well, as they
Yeah.
get older.
Yeah. Pete, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate you,
I
man.
love what you're doing, man. Keep at it. I've been following you from afar. But yeah, man, keep pushing kids in the right direction. You're at the end of the day, you're a good soul. That's all that matters. And
Thanks, Auntie, man.
people will, if you could be that mentor for kids that you didn't have, that's all you can ask for. And I look forward to seeing you in Chicago at some point. We got to have a little reunion together.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah,
So
for
thanks
sure.
again, man, for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Bye.